Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us today on what is our 5th episode of Into the Classroom for 2021. Just before we get started, if you can please mute your mics, just helps with our sound quality. And also, if you would like, this is an interactive session tonight, so if you come up with questions as Rebecca and I speak, you can type them into the chat box. We won't answer them at the exact time, but we will make a decent amount of time near the end of the webinar to answer your questions that you might have of Bex or things that come up during the interview. In the past, parents have really enjoyed this part of the webinar. So, welcome along tonight for what is, like I said, our 5th episode for 2021 into our webinar series called Into the Classroom. The purpose of our webinar is to celebrate the many talented educators we have across our 3 sub-schools. It's a chance to take an intimate look into their classroom to see what they're passionate about and see what they're teaching on a day-to-day basis and what they're doing right now in their classrooms. For this evening's episode, I'm very delighted to have Rebecca Nalentambi joining me. She's the head of Year 6 in our secondary school. She is in charge of our transition program, which has been designed to bring our Year 5s up into Year 6s and prepare them for the rest of their secondary. Rebecca is passionate about the teaching of literacy. She's been at AIS for 17 years, has 2 beautiful sons who've spent the entire education at AIS, and her husband Adrian also teaches in our secondary school. So without further ado, welcome along, Rebecca.
Hi everyone, hi Matt, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
I think I've covered quite a bit, but when we were having our chat, you did have some other parts about your history and about your journey to AIS that you could share with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of a history walk for me because I started teaching over 20 years ago, which is very hard to believe, but I did, and I started teaching in Sydney, Australia, and I taught there for 8 years, and I taught a mixture of lower elementary and upper elementary, and I even had the opportunity to go back to my own school that I went through prep to Year 6, and I actually taught there as well for a few years. Oh, wow. And then so from Sydney, I journeyed to China, and I taught in an international school in Guangzhou for 2 years, and I taught grade 2. And then moving on from there, I'm talking about Adrian and I, my husband, we moved to England, and we stayed there for 2.5 years, and I taught prep and I taught Year 6. And then we journeyed on to Singapore. And when we first arrived, we thought, yes, this is great. We'll do our 3-year contract. And then we'll head back to Sydney and start a family and resume life there. And here we are 17 years later, still at AIS, still loving it. And I've been very fortunate. I've taught all the years now from prep all the way up to Year 6. I've been the prep coordinator. I've been in charge of the EAL, English as a Second Language Learner program from prep to 2, and now I'm head of year for Year 6. So I've had many hats since being at AIS. And obviously my 2 sons, yes, as you said.
Rebecca, yeah, I think it's wonderful we'll talk a little bit more about that, because I think you were saying Sebastian actually has been through the Year 6 program and Jacob is in Year 5 coming up to the Year 6 program. So you've got a really nice a parent hat to wear as well in that journey as well.
Absolutely.
I've got this.
And I guess that's why, sorry.
You're right. No, carry on. What were you saying? What were you saying then?
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that's another reason why I'm so passionate and such an advocate for the Year 6 program, because my son, as we said, my son went through the program a few years ago and absolutely loved it. And, you know, he says that was his favourite year from the 3-year-old preschool to now. He absolutely loved it. My youngest son, Jacob, is about to head into the program next year. So, we're very excited about that and very looking forward to seeing how he experiences the program as well.
It's nice to get a parent's perspective into the actual journey and understand the anxieties that this children actually, as a mother with her own two sons, feels. I think it gives you a greater insight as well. When you and I were chatting earlier, you showed me this beautiful slide that you talked about this being your motto. Could you talk the audience through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So our meaning behind our Year 6 vision, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's pretty clear and pretty simple. As the students transition into the Year 6 program and into secondary school, it's not a sprint. We don't expect the kids to know everything. We don't expect the kids to come in day one or week one and know all the routines and the expectations and the ins and outs of secondary school. That takes time. It takes time for them to ease in and get used to that. And so that's why we call it a marathon. And we do that because a marathon is a longer event and it takes time. Any marathon runner who signs up for a marathon wants to achieve their very best, wants to have a positive experience. And to do that, they require patience and perseverance. They need to practice and develop skills and behaviours that are going to get them ultimately to that finish line and do it in a positive way. And also they require a strong support network that's there, encouraging them, offering motivation, helping them overcome challenges and setbacks. And, of course, celebrating all the little successes along the way until they get to that finish line. And then that's one big, celebration. And that really sums up our Year 6 program. And that's why I'm so proud of it and so passionate about advocating it, because our Year 6 program is all about nurturing our students and offering that supportive environment that over the year develops those skills and behaviours essential for secondary school. And we want our kids, we want to set them up for success. We want them to have a positive experience and we want them to be well prepared for secondary school so that they can achieve their best. So that's it. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
I think that's fabulous. And we're going to explore different parts of that this evening as we go into more depth about what the program is about. What you beautifully said there is, and what the parents need to understand is our Year 6 program is a lot different to the rest of our secondary school. And I've got this next slide here with some points on it. Just for the parents watching this evening, I know that there is a number of new parents watching who will be coming to AIS, but I also know there's a number of existing parents from our Year 5 cohort who will be watching. And what we can do is we can send out this PowerPoint to people to have a look at later. So don't worry about writing things down or what you see up there. It's just a bit of a help for Rebecca and I as we talk through what it actually looks like. So for me to be quiet now, can you tell us, how is the Year 6 program different to the rest of the secondary school?
Okay, well, it's a bit different in some ways, but it's also very similar. So I'll just start with the similarities, because that the students are entering Year 6 and they're entering secondary school. So they do have access to the same opportunities. They do, get their locker, which is so exciting. They do have opportunity to choose from all the same CCAs and our wonderful leadership programs. They're part of the one-to-one laptop program, which, is the most exciting thing coming in. But yeah, as I said, there's some differences as well. And I guess the first difference is the fact that we try to contain the Year 6 students for most of the day in the Year 6 pod. And we do that by having 2 to 3 core teachers. And when I mean core teachers, I mean they will have one teacher for English and humanities, and then they'll go to another teacher for math science. And that one of those teachers is usually their Strive teacher as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then they go off to PE, they go off to music, they go off to art, and then they also have health in the pod. So it's really about just easing them into the program, not having them just, have to manage all the different teachers and classrooms and buildings, maintaining that, core pod area for the core subjects.
I really like that. So what it's like is it's a nice hybrid between going from elementary, where you have their one home group teacher for most of their school day, except for when they pop off to some specialist classes over a week. They don't just go to like a year 7, will go to a year off to the maths area for maths, off to English separately, off to humanities separately, and off to science separately. You've got those 4 core, like you described them, core subjects up in the year 6 pod, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other one of the other differences is the way we structure and stagger the homework. So they come in from year 5, and I know this because I've experienced this as a parent, and they come in from year 5 having been allocated homework from one teacher, and they have 2 weeks to complete it. When they move up to year 7, 8, 9, so forth, they've got homework coming in from different teachers, and, it might be 2 days to finish it, or this is due tomorrow. So we've got that nice in between easing in. So our homework is structured and staggered so that each day one subject's homework is due. So they have a complete week. So it could be English is Monday, maths is Tuesday, science is Wednesday, and so forth for the rest of the week. So that also is a nice transition into managing homework.
That is nice, and it gives them, like you just said, then the management is they know one's due each day. It's not overwhelming. It's not a huge load of several subjects on one night, or us boys can be a little bit disorganized and leave it all to the last minute. So that helps us have it one each day. I quite like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other positive differences this year that has been very, very successful, and it's something I initiated at the end of last year, it's our Orientation Week program. When the rest of the secondary come back to school and start the new school year, their orientation program is usually between 2 to 3 days. And that was the same for year 6 as well. But what we recognised as a year 6 staff is that actually our students coming into year 6, they need more time over the week to settle into the routines, settle into the expectations, set up their timetable, set up those positive relationships and start building that positive community so that they belong to their classes, they belong to year 6, they belong to the secondary school. And also we've got a great digital literacy program now where we invited our famous cyber cop from Australia, Susan McLean. She comes in and talks to the students and the parents about keeping the students safe online, how to act respectfully and appropriately online. And then we follow that up through our digital literacy guru, Erin Taylor, through Common Sense Media and the program that we run through our Strive. So that week program now, it was really successful this year. So that was another difference.
I really like that because I know for the year 5s it is very exciting coming and getting their own laptop that they get, and difference being then being able to take it home at night, but then also getting a lot of with that responsibility, which is getting their own laptop, comes a lot of behaviours, expectations around how they're going to use it, and you guys set them up really clearly. So that I think the parents would like to hear that, and setting them up at the beginning of the school year or the whole week is a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. And we also invite the parents to an evening where Susan McLean talks to them as well and offers parents support and guidance on what they can be doing from a home perspective as well. And we also send home a family contract that the students go through with their families and they sign it. So, really from day one, getting that laptop, really educating them in a positive way about how to use that device.
I like that. Now, you just mentioned a minute ago, you said, and I will jump on to this next slide, you said that they have their 4 core teachers. They have 2 teachers for 4 core subjects. So 2 teachers for their maths, science, humanities, and English. And then you said one of them is their Strive teacher. Can you explain to the parents what is Strive and about your program?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Strive teacher is like their homeroom teacher, their main teacher in the elementary. And that's Strive is actually an acronym, and you can see it on the screen. Strive stands for Strengths, Thrive, Resilience, International Mindedness, Values, Enjoyment, and Engagement. And through the Strive program, it's a pastoral program based on developing the academic welfare, because, you know, well-being and the academics are so closely connected, and they're, you know, you can't have one without the other. Our kids, we want them to be happy. We want them to be confident and comfortable, because we know that happy, confident, comfortable children in the classroom thrive, and they can reach their full potential. So the program really is to support our students with their academic, their social, their emotional growth, their development. It's just all about fostering positive relationships and engagement within a supportive community. And one thing I failed to say, which I'll say now, is that is as students come into Year 6 each morning, that's their first class they attend each morning, is their Strive class. And their Strive teacher will take them through different activities. So it could be, you know, building routines and reading timetables, building that community and nurturing environment. It could be we run study skills programs. We run programs on, after getting their initial assessments, how to take feedback in a positive way, so that will move them forward in a positive way. So it really does encompass so much, but really the crux of it is that academic well-being of our students.
Wow, it's so very deliberate, isn't it? And I really like that. And it wouldn't be Singapore without an acronym. So I love that Strive does stand for something, and it wouldn't be our school without an acronym. Goodness, but I didn't quite realise that Strive was an acronym. So that's terrific. And that same Strive concept, that carries on up through secondary school, am I right?
Yeah, definitely. And it also carries through to our subject classes as well, because, you know, I teach English and humanities, but part of my job is to make sure that academic well-being of my students is paramount.
I like that. And I think it's another real strength of this hybrid model, is going from elementary with that one person for the majority of the day. They still have 2 significant adults, and one of them being their most significant, being their Strive teacher. And you guys, all the staff are also based in one staff room, which is a little bit different too, isn't it? You actually are all up there as well in that pod. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. So most of the Year 6 staff, not all of them, but the majority of them, we are based in the Year 6 pod in the staff room area. So that's another advantage for the program, is because we can often, you know, support each other and help each other to support our kids as well.
Yeah, and that's really is for the students' sake. It's very important, that sharing of where someone is at, what's going on for that student. Is there a behaviour change? Are we seeing someone struggling? Are we seeing someone that needs extending? And then you can be sharing that.
Yeah.
And it's a real strength of the model. I like that. Can we just go on to now? I've got this next slide here that I'll move us on to. Because I know that you are a real expert in Year 6, and you certainly are, without a doubt, passionate about the program and its intricacies, and everything is well thought out, like you said, from the timetable to the homework to the teachers that they have, those significant adults. But you are also incredibly passionate about teaching literacy. And I think that's absolutely smashing, going into a secondary school with people really passionate about that. Can you talk us through Readers and Writers Workshop and what that means?
Absolutely. I could probably talk all day about it. Anybody who knows me really well knows that I'm very, very passionate about reading and writing. And I'm very passionate about the Readers and Writers Workshop that we've introduced into Year 6. So when I was teaching down in the elementary school, I started to experiment with the Readers and Writers Workshop. And there are different models out there, but the one that I was particularly drawn to was the one that's come out of Columbia University in New York. And it's the one that the school uses in the elementary school now. And the thing I love about it is that it's so rigorous, and it's the explicit teaching of skills within reading and writing units. And so once I started, seeing successes down in the elementary, when I came up into Year 6 and into the English program, I was very passionate about seeing a need for just continuing that journey for our elementary kids into the Year 6, but also seeing the successes of it. So I was very, very lucky, very fortunate that the school did send me to New York for a week, where I was able to attend a week workshop with the Columbia University, the leaders, the creators of the program, who train staff all over the world. So that was an incredible experience, and that experience allowed me to come back and further develop our reading and writing units. So that was really amazing. And 3 years on the program, we've seen such success with the program. We've had secondary staff from Year 7 and 8 talk to us about the reading engagement, the level of reading engagement that has increased coming through, the level of reading and writing skills in terms of analysis, and just that control over writing and reading coming through. And because I've maintained my contacts with the Columbia University leaders, I've often sent them examples from the work of our students. And they've been so impressed with what they've seen. The feedback has always been so fantastic, which is great, and a credit to the program, and a credit to our Year 6 English staff.
Yeah, I can tell that you could talk all day about this, Bex. I can hear your excitement when you're speaking. It's nice. It's really nice to hear. And I think our last person that we interviewed, actually, we talked about in prep school and talking about the teaching of science, the science behind the learning to read. And it was amazing to hear down there as well that the Readers and Writers Workshop was even used and framed up by the teachers from prep. And I often talk about this whole in this series about there is huge benefits of being in a large through school. And what I mean by through is it goes early years, elementary, secondary. And one of those massive advantages is the continuity of programs and curriculum between going, like, for example, here, elementary to secondary school. So you speaking about this is another one of those excellent through. The students will come familiar with the language.
Yes.
Now, I do know a little bit, or I do know quite a lot what a lesson or what it might look like for the student. If I was in a reading workshop or a writing one, you choose, can you tell us what the students would see and feel? What does it look like? What's happening?
Yeah, sure. Well, to be honest with you, the model of a Readers and Writers Workshop is very similar. So for up in the Year 6 area, our lessons go from anywhere between 50 to 55 to 60 minutes. And in that time, the workshop, if children are engaging in a Readers and Writers Workshop lesson, they will all come together for a whole class mini lesson to begin. And that mini lesson is between 10 to 15 minutes, where you are working together as a class with a mentor text. And a mentor text, what I mean by that is an exemplar of a reading piece or a writing piece that you want to be studying. And that could be a published author, but it could also be of a student's work that is a top example, a high achieving. So in that 10 to 15 minutes, you're using that model or that mentor text. You're working on one skill at a time. So that over a period of a unit, you're building skills and practicing skills. And then for the majority of the time, it's independent work time. And the beauty of the independent work time is where the students actually get to choose the books that they're doing their reading work with, or they get to choose their topics that they're writing about. Because we know that with student agency, you get student engagement. You know, kids are always more passionate, engaged with topics that they're reading and writing about that they choose. And choose with educated choices. We don't let them just go free, and we train them how to do that, train them how to, select books that are just right for them and whatnot. And then during that independent time is where teachers are conferencing. So they might be conferencing with one child, they might be conferencing with a small group or a pair, and, refining skills or practicing skills to move them on in their reading and writing development. And then the final 5 or 10 minutes is a share. So the kids might come together in their reading partnership or their writing partnership and share their work and highlight their strengths and areas for need. Or they could be in their book clubs. So at the moment in Year 6, we're in non-fiction book clubs. So it will end with them, talking in their book clubs and whatever it is that the skill or the area that, they've been focusing on for that lesson. And so that's it in a nutshell for reading and writing.
No, I really like that. So you've got a very definite structure. I think for parents and myself as an educator, I really love how explicit it is that you're teaching, how to become good writers and identifying what's exciting. I did just like then that you said, and one little bit I will dig a little deeper, was you're saying looking at good examples of work as exemplars, and you use other students' work. Can I just go a little deeper into that? What do you mean by using other students' work? What are you talking about there?
Yeah, so obviously when students come into Year 6, and it's the secondary school, they are now starting to take assessments for each subject. And so each unit of work is preparing them for an assessment. So, but when we're looking at student exemplars, we're looking at, for instance, if we were looking at a non-fiction unit, which we're doing now, and we're about to go into non-fiction writing, where the students will create their own non-fiction digital books. So we will pull that apart. Each lesson we'll focus on some particular skill that student has done well with their reading and writing development, and we will pick that apart and analyze it and talk about it, and then the children can then go off and practice that. This is a student or even a published author, and now you can take that skill and you can practice that as a writer as well.
I like that. Now, you've just said something that is really, which is interesting, and it's that next move into secondary school, formal assessment. Can you, because I know that Year 6 does do formal assessment, can you talk a parent through what that might look like? What does that look like at Year 6?
Yeah, so for each of the subject areas in Year 6, they will sit one assessment per term. And before they sit that assessment, we will give a 2-week notice period, and the students will receive an assessment notification. And you will, as a teacher, you will go through that with the students in class, so that they understand when that assessment will take place. They'll understand the type of task it is, whether it's a research project or whether it's a test, or whether it's, whatever form it is, and they will go through this is what you'll be assessed on. And most of the time they'll be given the marking rubric that the teachers mark, so that they've got 2 weeks to fully understand, to take it home, to contact their teachers if they're not sure about anything, 2 weeks to prepare for that assessment. So it's not a surprise. It's never a surprise. Right. They know exactly what it is. They know exactly when it will be, and they know the marking criteria as well.
I really like that, and I know that so you're really scaffolding the students through that process, aren't you? From the very beginning, like you say, 2 weeks in, they've got the marking schedule, scaffolded scaffolding, rubrics, and I was just having a conversation today with Jen Hill in Year 5, and she talked about using the rubric. So there must be another nice continuity between elementary up to secondary school, which is really, really lovely.
Yeah. And
now, am I right? So I'm just going to, sorry.
I was just going to say that one of the skills that we do teach in Strive and throughout our curriculum programs is encouraging the students to be proactive, so that if you need support, if you're not sure of anything, you need to make a time to meet with the teacher or email the teacher, so that you don't enter any assessment period uncertain of anything. You enter that assessment lesson knowing exactly what is required. And you know, that takes time for some kids, because it's hard for some kids to do that. But that is, one important skill that we try to foster and develop over the year, is that proactiveness.
That for secondary success is huge. So I really like the sound of you making that really explicit and making it a really big focus for the year group. I was just going to say before, there's two boys in the middle. They've both got the same book. I'm a little bit intrigued about that. Can you just talk through what those two lads are doing on the slide?
Yeah, so, on the slide, one of the points that I've written there is the celebration of student success. So that's one of the things that we do at the end of our readers and writers units in Year 6. We always have some sort of celebration, because we always love to celebrate the success. And no matter how small or great, all the students make some kind of success. And so that picture is taken from our first reading unit, which is a deep study of character in fiction. And that celebration is what we call the Festival of Reading. We invite our heads of secondary and leaders from secondary to come and read to the children. We provide Milo and marshmallows, and it's just a nice way to end the unit. Those two boys are holding Detention, which is written by Tristan Banks, and Tristan Banks just so happens to be a very famous Australian author who we have a very healthy working relationship with, and he comes in and he helps us with our personal narrative writing. And so we've developed a partnership with him over the last 2 years, which is great. So I felt I needed to take that and talk about Tristan Banks and what we've been doing with the work we've been doing with him over the last 2 years.
What book did Brad Bird read? I'd love to know what he read. Did he? Imagine Brad would have loved reading to the children. I'll have to quiz him.
Yeah, he does. He loves. He's always part of our English program, coming up reading to the kids. When the kids write their personal narratives, he's always interested in reading. Reading the stories. He's a huge advocate for our program.
He loves his books, Brad, so that he would have enjoyed that a lot. I've got this. Let's carry on a little bit more. I'm just trying to get my slide. Here we go. I've got fiddly fingers. This next one that I'd like to have a look at. These two beautiful pieces of work. And to begin with, when I very first saw this slide, Rebecca, I didn't realise that they were students' work, which I know I'm taking away some of your thunder, but I didn't quite realise that. But can you talk through, I know the parents might not be able to see it, but can you tell us a bit more about them, please?
Yeah, well, it's one thing for me to sit here tonight and talk about the program, but I think the real success is just to show the parents what excellent, work samples come out of our program and all our programs, whether they're fiction or non-fiction. So these two slides represent two of our units. The first one on the left, the sample, is a work sample from our personal narrative unit, which really is where the students are writing. They're looking back at their lives, and they're choosing that one moment on one day that is so special or memorable in some way that it's worthy of writing a personal narrative story. And what we teach the kids is how to write so descriptively that when you read it, the reader experiences it. They can picture themselves being in that moment as well. And so that example there is from one of our students last year and was one of our top students' samples of writing. The second one on the right is our powerful poetry unit. And this was another example of an excellent student's work. And this student chose to write a poem based on their family's tradition of Christmas crumble. And once again, this poem represents, the first beginning of the unit is really reading poetry, analysing poetry for the different techniques that poets use to make their writing so descriptive and entertaining to read. So this was another student's, and if you just look at some of the language there in that poem, it's beautiful.
The heading I loved actually. Christmas crumble. I just went like, it makes me, even though I'm in Singapore, feel about that and think, oh, that'll be rather delicious. You talk about now, and you've said it a couple of times, and you've said powerful. You've talked about powerful reading and powerful writing, and again, it seems to be something I'm hearing a bit more from you. Is that deliberate, or what's the angle on that?
It's very deliberate. So from week one, when the kids enter the Year 6 English program, we share with the Year 6 students as a Year 6 English team. This is our dream. This is our goal for you guys, is to become powerful readers and writers of fiction and non-fiction texts. And so every unit, whether it's reading or writing, it's always, you'll hear that word powerful. Right. I think it's very powerful when you put that and you repeat that over and over to the kids and practice those skills of a powerful reader and writer.
I do like that, because it makes them realise that there's an audience, isn't it? And that's what I write. So when they're writing something, they are writing it to be, like you said, powerful. It explains that it's for someone else. So someone else needs to be taking that in mind. I like that. Now, I do know that I've kind of made a bit of a mistake when we were designing these slides, because you beautifully put these three images up. I assumed that these were professionally, well, not that they're not professionally, but they were from the internet slides and they had links to them. But can you just tell us a little bit more about what they actually are? Because we can't jump to them, parents, but we will explain them though.
Yeah. So part of our non-fiction reading and writing unit, which is what the students are actually engaged in now, at the beginning, the students work in book clubs and they read non-fiction books, and they read and they focus on the different skills reading the non-fiction books. But then after that, we move into a powerful non-fiction writing unit where the end product is the students creating their own non-fiction digital book. And so to do that, we have to teach the kids how to research with integrity, how to write with integrity. So, plagiarism, how to teach them not to plagiarize, how to teach them to synthesize across different texts and fact check to make sure that what they include in their digital non-fiction books is, accurate information. So these three books are, once again, student non-fiction digital books, and they are amazing when you look through them, and that's why I had the link there. But as you look through them, they look like any professional digital book you can see on a program. And if you flick to the next slide, you'll be able to see that I've actually taken some photos of the inside of the three different books. So the top left one is from a student last year who was very, very passionate about researching and writing about women in sport and inequality in sport and how women are trying to change that. Another student, top right, was very passionate about creating a book on the Titanic and explaining, the maiden voyage and the disaster that we all know that happened. And then the third in the bottom, in the centre, it was a student who was really passionate about climate change. And that introduction that he wrote is so powerful that when you read it, it makes you think, yeah, what am I actually doing about it? You know, it makes you want to think, you know, I should take action or further action in my life. So just really, really powerful work from all three students. And that's just examples from three students. I could have shown you more work, more examples, but they're the three that I chose.
They're an absolute delight, and it sort of leads on beautifully now, because I actually do have a question here from Chang Hong. She said, will we receive slides after the webinar? Obviously, after you put the examples of the students' work up, absolutely, we'll send these slides out to everyone that attended. And in those slides, when we send them out, Bex, we'll see if we can actually put them links in them so the parents can go and have a look at them.
Yeah, I've already put the links in. So when you send it out, all they need to do is click on the image, because I've attached the link to the image of the photo.
That will be amazing. So then they'll actually be able to open up and see more than just these pages. It's quite funny. I bet you it was a boy that liked the Titanic. I had a strange obsession with the Titanic at that age too. So I'll be quite interested to have a read myself. I think, Bex, what we'll do now is we'll give the audience a chance, if they've got questions around anything to do with Year 6, clearly about your passion with teaching, reading and writing. Now, I assume now that you then will be the English humanities. You'll be the English side of the teaching in the Year 6. You must be, you can be a maths or science or an English humanities.
Yeah. No, I teach on the English humanities side of things. Yes. And before becoming a head of year, I also had a Strive class. I did take Strive, but as head of year now, we oversee the Strive program.
Brilliant. I like that. My very first position at the school was in Year 6 as well, so which I was excited about having this one. I was on the math science side, so I enjoyed that. I've got a question here. We could have paired up, absolutely. We could have been the two teachers for them. I've got a question here from Sarah, and she's saying, how can I help my child to transition to secondary school? That's quite a good question. Yeah, that's a really great question, Sarah. And my advice to all parents, and you know, I'm coming from a parent who is going through this at the moment and has already gone through it. It's just having those honest conversations with your child. Ask them how they're feeling. I would emphasize more the excitement of it, you know, all the opportunities that await them in the secondary school, because there's so many opportunities and it is exciting. And talk to them about that and talk to them about their feelings. But if they are feeling anxious or worried, but ask them what is it? What are you feeling anxious and what are you feeling worried about? Because in semester 2, part of our transition program is that the Year 5 students do experience some time in the Year 6 area. They do have a couple of assemblies where some Year 6 students will come down and talk to them and answer their questions. So it's really just about having those conversations, asking questions, but really preparing them for the excitement of, you've got this to look forward to and this to look forward to. Yeah. I like that. Actually, it was quite coincidental today, but we have in the admissions and marketing team, we have a session where we call have a lunch with an academic, and today we had Jen Hill from the head of Year 5 come and talk to us, and we talked about exactly this topic, which leads exactly into what this parent said. So I'll let you answer what the parent's going to say about this, because it's just like you said about being excited is good. You said something terrific at the beginning of this, though. They're not expected to turn up with the skills to succeed in Year 6. They're just starting at the beginning. So they've got all year to master those skills. They don't need to have them on day one in that.
and we refer to our year 6 vision all throughout the year. We're always saying that to the kids. Remember, guys, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We need time. You know, this is your first year in secondary school. We're building those skills, we're practicing those skills, because we want to prepare you so well for your secondary, you know, when you get to big year 7, you know, secondary school.
Yeah. That next step, which is wonderful. They're already there, which is terrific. The next question that I've got here is from Emily, and it's a good question. At the end of the year, she's got a year 5 son. Do the kids have an orientation session before commencing year 6?
Yeah, so that's what I was just referring to. So there will be a few different opportunities for the year 5 students to experience and get a feel for year 6. And as I said, one of those things is that they come up to the year 6 area and they get to meet the teachers and they get to have some experience up in the year 6 pod. Last year, obviously, with COVID, we had to be a bit more creative, because usually in the past that means, you know, experience a day in year 6. But with restrictions, we had to sort of modify that program a little bit. So hopefully by the end of, you know, term 3, beginning of term 4, restrictions might be a little bit less, and we can look at doing that again. Or if not, we will still use a modified version. And also the students will have opportunity to hear from the year 6 kids, and the year 6 kids will be able to answer their questions from a kid's perspective. But they will also have, you know, the heads of year, Ross Webber and I, we will address the kids as well.
And that's what Jen was saying today. And she said they really like the students in the past have really enjoyed having the year 6 come down and talk to them, talk through the experience from a child. Yeah. She also said something beautiful here for Emily, that the teachers also in year 5 start to prepare them in that year 4 period, term 4 period, by doing sessions like, what are your questions? What are your worries? What are you excited about? What can we answer now? So they actually had a whole exercises that the year 5 teachers do as well, Emily. It's not just this one orientation session. There's a nice deliberate, which I liked. I think that's really, I must emphasize, it's deliberate, it's well thought out, and it's very aimed at lowering, like you beautifully said, lowering anxiety, but maximizing excitement, asking any questions that they have, and coming up, which I thought was a good point, and I like that, Bex. Is there, for other parents watching, is there other questions that you could have? I think, Rebecca, you've been incredibly explicit, which is nice. I think that explaining what that's like. What was I going to say? Can you just, and this is just a bit of one from me, and it might be something that the parents are asking. So they do have the 4 core subjects with you guys. How many lessons do they have a week of those? How does that work out?
So for math, there is, yeah. So for maths and English, they have 6 lessons a week. For humanities and science, they have 4 lessons a week. And then you've got your PE, which is a double lesson. And then on top of that, you've got art and music. But art and music are semesterized subjects. So for half the year, they'll engage in art lessons. And then for the other half, they'll engage in music lessons. And one of the things that I was just thinking about is that during semester 2, we also host a parent evening transition program. So Ross Webber and I will run, and last year it was online because of restrictions again. Whether it's at school or online, we also run a transition program at transition evening for the parents to come along. And we have year 6 students present to the parents. Ross and I present to the parents, and that's a great opportunity too for parents to listen to the kids, ask questions of the year 6 team, and that's, I think, a supportive way to help parents with maybe their questions and their anxieties, and hopefully minimize their anxiety and maximize their excitement as well.
I really like that. I like that. And again, this sort of forum online's fine too. It's you know, I know it's not a perfect world we live in and things like that, but it is quite a nice one still for presenting. Annalise, you've said that you've got a question in the private chat. I've gone to have a look and I can't quite see it. I don't know whether I'll have a look at the end, or if you could type it again in here, maybe I'll ask it. We'll come to you. If it's in the private session, I don't know whether you don't want it asked here and you want it asked privately later, so I'll be a bit careful that I don't blurt it out here. But I'll leave that to Annalise to jump back in if she has anything. Is there any other questions from the parents? I like the way that you explained around the timetable. I like the way you explained about the semesterized subjects, so they're not getting overwhelmed with having way too many subjects at once. That's quite nice. So that's why you do the semesterizing, so that you don't have like they're not having to do like 4 different subjects. They're just doing so many at one half the year, then so many. How many subjects does that mean in a school day that they do? Not in a school day, but in a school week. How many subjects are they doing for one semester? It'd be the 4 core subjects.
Yeah, they're doing their 4 English, maths, humanities, science, PE, their LOT, their language selection class, so whether it's French or Chinese, and art or music.
Right.
And
so that's good. Yeah. That's given this.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. I've just seen a question which I do have a really positive answer for, and it's just a question about feedback from students who've been through the program, and particularly students who've left AIS and continued their journey elsewhere. And the feedback, I can honestly say, has been very, very positive in terms of when students, if students return to Australia and they head into Year 7 in Australia or elsewhere, the feedback that we've had from students and parents saying, thank you, the Year 6 program has really set our child up so well for secondary. And that's because it's as I said, it's the transition year. We teach them how to read their timetable so they know how to manage where to be at what times. We help them to prepare for homework that's going to come more often, or, we structure the homework. We prepare them how to get ready for assessments and deal with assessments, and then take the feedback after, because, the feedback is so crucial before, during and after assessment. So yeah, the feedback I have to say, to answer that question, is very positive in terms of getting the kids what you would say secondary school ready.
Yes, I think that's absolutely all the feedback I've had too. That's exceptional. The parents, when they've gone back, the students have been just so ready to succeed, find themselves miles ahead of all the other kids back in their cohorts in Australia. So I again, absolutely hand on heart, can say that that's the experience that I've heard as well. I do apologise to Annalise, other people. I forgot to scroll down. That was the problem going on before. It wasn't that was. So that's beautiful that I missed that. I'm pleased that you see. I've got a question here from Tiffany, and she's asking, are there any classes or CCAs which take on the interdisciplinary approach, combining science and art, for example? That's interesting. So it's kind of carrying on that the elementary PYP transitionary learning that they do down there. I think
I'll have to
when we get, I think that sorry, Rebecca.
I was just going to say that our CCA program is always evolving, and different CCAs get added, but with restrictions at times. This year we've had to restrict some of the CCAs. Yeah. But we do have a CCA office, and we do have like the selections of CCAs, whether it's sporting or it's enrichment. They do come out. But they're changing all the time, so it's it's a bit of a tricky one to answer.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting for just off the top of our head, Tiffany, we can't think of exactly what your examples, but what I think Rebecca and myself would say is the amount of CCAs available to secondary is considerable. At the moment, we do know it's not the typical CCA program, but the normal. And let's try and aim for the normal. Let's hope that within the next, well, you guys have got at least 6 months if you are year 5 parents, the 7 months for us to get back to a more normal, hopefully, school life. And there is a huge variety. Off the top of our head, we can't think of ones that line up exactly with that approach, but I do know there is different science, and I do know there is different art CCAs. Whether they work on them being combined and working together, we'd have to check for that. I've got another question here, and I think you might have asked this, and this is a good one. So you'll have a perspective on this. How do we prepare a child for assessment tests starting in secondary, especially since they haven't experienced it before? Now, I think you're going to jump on this. What's your thoughts there?
Well, once again, my first reaction is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And that's what we do. The subject teachers and the Strive teachers within the Strive program and the subject programs, we help the students. So I'm not sure if you heard me earlier, but one of the things we run in the Strive program is a study skill program where we teach the kids positive study habit behaviours to set them up and prepare them. And we run that in term 1. And that's been very successful. But we also, in our curriculum subjects, we're very explicit in the way that we prepare the kids and notify the kids and give them that assessment period 2-week time to help them understand exactly what the tasks are and how they'll be graded.
And I like that. And I think what's really important for the parents is there is nothing that you need to do. There's nothing that you need to do prior or in year 5 to try and get them ready. The year 6 teachers will do all the support, all the scaffolding, all of the teaching how to do an assessment. I know that being in year 6 as a teacher myself, it's beautifully done. It's very structured. And like you just said, even on top of that, in term 1, you've actually got a skills unit based around those. So I really like that. Yeah. I've got another question here, and I think I understand it. If my kid this person's child hasn't got a strong inclination for maths or science, will you be teaching the child more of the subject or move on to other subjects? Now there is, just so they're very clear, there is set amount of maths periods and science periods and the set amount of English and humanities. I'm correct in thinking that, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely. 6 English and math and 4 humanities and science.
Yeah, now that's really important because that was one of the little things that came in when I was in the year 6 area was they used to have 5 and 5 of each, 5 maths and then 5 of the science, but it was realized that there is still a lot of very deliberate maths skills teaching, and like you beautifully said, reading and writing skills teaching that needed to be done for these students. So it was decided to have 6 periods, which is amazing. That means one day there's more than 2 lessons, which is phenomenal for especially the maths and the English, because we know that they are really important. So I think that's important. I think if you're talking about, for this parent, if you're worrying about their maths or science, everything that is going to be assessed in that unit is taught to the child. So there'll be nothing, they wouldn't have expected to come in with it knowing it. It will be, and that will be the same for English. Sorry, Rebecca, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, I was 100% going to back you up there and say that all assessments are an assessment of the explicit skills, content, knowledge that they've been taught in their units of study. So it's nothing new. It's just for the student to demonstrate how far they've come in their understanding and knowledge in those particular units.
And absolutely. So, and I know that the teachers will have the students grouped for the maths and understand who needs to learn what. They do pre-tests and post-tests, so they have a good understanding for that, for the maths and science. So I can speak on that one. There's another question here from Ashad, and I think I can help with this one. It's in the secondary teaching structure material, common for IB and Australian HSC stream. Now, is the secondary teaching structure material, etc., common for both IB and Australian HSC stream? What I will say, Ashad, is the way that our curriculum is set up in the secondary school is very deliberate for the students to do the best they possibly can in year 11 and 12 years. So, for example, for this, we have the Australian curriculum from years 6 to 8. We then go on to the IGCSE for years 9 and 10, because that's getting them ready for exam-based end of the year big exams, which is what they will then see in the IB and the HSC. Now, they are both similar in content for the both of them. The way they are structured for the IB and HSC suits different students. So obviously the children are very young now. I think for this one here, I won't go into it too much now, but if you want to learn more about that, Ashad, please get in contact with me and I will explain more about the differences between IB and HSC. Both exceptional courses, and not one is not better than the other. They just suit different children, which I can teach you about why you do that. One question we've got here from Gian, which is a good question. Do Year 6 students have any elective classes they can choose?
The only choice they have over subjects is their language class. So whether they're interested in studying French, which my son does and loves, or whether they want to continue their Chinese language from year 5. So they do have that choice. And actually, just to add on to that, at the end of year 5, parents will be notified and asked to make a choice for what language that they would like to study in year 6.
Yeah, that's really good. And just to help there, that's the same for years 6, 7, and 8. Same structure, but they just choose their language, and then it's at the end of what we do is at year 9 and 10, they can start to specialise more. But we try to keep them very broad for years 6, 7, and 8, which we think is really important for them to carry on with. We've actually, Rebecca, obviously these are wonderful questions from these parents. If you've got more, you can write in. Annalise, I'll go back and see if I can find your question. If not, I will see if I can get your email address and write to you. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming along and sharing your passion and for the Year 6 and obviously your love for the teaching of literacy to our students.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope that to all the people who have tuned in tonight, I hope that they found that very helpful and informative as well. And I really do look forward to welcoming your sons and your daughters to the Year 6 program next year. I'm excited. I'm excited for my son, and I'm excited to meet the new cohort of AIS Year 6 students.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thank you very much for all of our parents who have come to join us this evening. Take care, enjoy your evening. We do have a recording and we will send out a PowerPoint, the PowerPoint out to everyone who attended today. So take care and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye for now.